know, for me, putting on a pair of Diane Miller heels, though, it just sort of completes the character.
I get that.
Yeah, yeah.
I wore a lot of heels too because I'm 5'1", so they would put me in.
Well, we know Dick Van Dyke is quite tall, so
Yeah, he's lofty, very lofty.
Charlie was walking on apple boxes. Big
I had
boxes.
them tied to my shoes.
Now, you know, Charlie, we'll go down here. You know, like I just mentioned, you've had the pleasure of working with some of the biggest comedic actors in history. George Burns, where you got to play his younger self in, you know, 18 again. Thank you. And then again, you worked with Dick Van Dyke over 130 some odd episodes, if I did my math right. What was that like for you booking these gigs? You know, especially as a young actor. How did that feel? Like, was there like a lot of weight on top of that?
Yeah, you know, the best thing about it was that it was just a double bonus for me, because as an actor, it's like, wow, you land a great movie, great script and all that stuff, and then you land this thing with a living legend like George Burns. And to me, that was so great. I was excited, but the thing that made me even more excited was that it was somebody that my parents loved, and it was somebody that my grandparents loved and respected. So it wasn't just like, hey, my kid's in this movie. It was, no, my kid's working with George Burns. You know, it was that. And they say exactly like that, unfortunately. And then, right, Beth, you know how my dad sounds. Yeah, he's crazy. And same thing with Dick Van Dyke. The first thing my grandfather said was, Charles, you're working with a legend. And I'm sure all of us have worked with someone like that at some point, and it's just it's career defining. It's one of those blessings.
I got to work with Eric Estrada.
What?
Who's that? Oh.
I've never had the pleasure. Yeah.
But what's interesting about this industry, if you look all up here,
Actually, I have kind of worked with Eric Estrada. He may not remember this, but I'm on the General Hospital car for the Christmas parade. Coming through, yeah. I'm the one who has the fun and funny and interesting things to say.
Now, Eric, you've worked, you know, had a vast career, and you've worked in a lot of things. You've portrayed different roles in TV, drama, telenovela, comedy. But a lot of times we see you come on as a cameo as yourself. How often have you overplayed yourself as yourself?
A lot. And it's a piece of cake. I don't have to really learn anything. I don't have to create anybody. I just do me. And I walk on and I walk off. And I get paid.
It's probably the easiest job.
I take it as a compliment and appreciate it to be asked to do me. Yeah.
Now, being in such long and iconic franchises, you know, between it was Chips, or Batman, General Hospital, you know, you've portrayed God knows how many characters I've grown up listening to. You know, how many in this landscape of reboots? A lot of your guys' franchises have stood the test of time. I know we've had, Chips '99, and then we had that movie we don't want to talk about, but a great cameo.
Well, it was very funny. Dak Shepard paid $500,000 to license the name Chips from Columbia Warner. Great, if you could do it. But then he went ahead and did his own narcissistic, egotistical piece of crap. Because if he'd have stayed with the narrative of the original concept of Chips, family hour, park your kid in front of the TV, don't be worried about what they're gonna see or hear. That made it a family show, 8 o'clock Sunday night. But he went ahead and just blew it and took, instead of making $180 million, he probably made $8 million. You know what I mean? But that's what they do in Hollywood. These yahoos will take something that works, and they try to, they don't try to fix it. They let their ego get in there and they screw it up. Anyway, so they came to my house. I turned them down twice. Then they came to my house on the last week of production, came to my gate, which really ticked me off, to ask me, please, will you be in it? Will you be in it? So I said, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll be in it, but you can't put my name on the credits. You cannot advertise me, and I don't want no poop putt scene, and I want it less than a minute or a minute and a half, and this much money. 'Cause I didn't care, and they said yes, please, and they went ahead and made a piece of crap. But they could, you wouldn't know I was in it if you didn't see it, because I wouldn't allow them to use my name for advertising, publicity, or anything. That was my way of sticking it to you if you come to my house.
Now, like I said, all these great franchises. So, Robert, you obviously you are Arliss. You know what is it?
We've worked together.
Yes,
We've worked together.
they've worked together.
Never mind.
I gotta find out when.
In Arliss. I just got a 3-cent residual check from Arliss.
We get a bigger one, they have a new contract. Not much, what's bigger?
But like I said, going down the line, why is it you think that your franchises have stood the test of time and really haven't gotten the reboot treatment? Have they just fit exactly where they were? Just like you said, Chips was perfect right where it was, and they didn't need to do what they did. It was there, it was the cash grab. What do you think about those franchises you've been a part of, and why they don't need that treatment?
Well, with mine, it's strictly an HBO decision. I don't own the show, and they do, and the current administration wasn't a fan. And it's that simple, even though the huge fans were out there, but they weren't. And HBO won't give you back anything. So that's strictly, but the original episodes are all on Max now. So I hear about that.
Caroline?
Well, soaps are, because I've done a lot of other work, but the longest running thing that I've done, and am still doing, is General Hospital. Soaps are a completely different animal from primetime,
Yes.
from feature, because we are in your home every 5 days a week, every single day. You can count on us. We are reliable. We are sometimes more of a family to a viewer than their biological family, and they're so invested, and they know everything about the soap and us and our characters, which is so gratifying as an actor. I can't even tell you. So, but we're still running, and it's because of that dependability, that connection that people have with the soap opera characters, because we're always there. Having a bad day, having a great day, something goes wrong, whatever it is, you can turn on General Hospital and lose yourself. And it's a cautionary tale. Don't let this happen to you. Don't let what happened to Carly happen to you. Or look how wonderful this is turning out for so-and-so. It won't stay wonderful for long, because then we would lose everybody's attention. But you know what I mean? It's like, it's educational and it's incredibly entertaining. That's why it keeps going. There used to be 16, now there are 4. But these 4 are like juggernauts, and they're just gonna keep going. Because the writing, whether or not you like the writing, it's pretty consistent. So, I love that. I love being a part of, how do I say this, someone's sort of extended family. Do you know what I mean? It's very, very gratifying. And I think a lot of my contemporaries feel that way too. So,
Charlie?
Oh, yeah, exactly. And to add to that, I think one of the best things about us coming to a convention is that, so many times we do a show in a vacuum. And I mean, Carolyn sees the same people but you come out here and you see the effect of your work on people, and it's so wonderful when they come to you and they say, because I do a lot of cartoons, they'll say, oh, you were my childhood, and you see how badly you affected them. But, and also, it's all, like Eric was saying, to do a show like Chips, it was a family show.
Exactly.
I got to be a part of Diagnosis Murder for 100 years, and that was a family show. That was a show, the best thing people say to me ever is, oh my God, I used to watch that with my grandparents every Thursday night, because we weren't allowed to watch Seinfeld or Friends, and it was the last staple of feel-good TV. And like Carolyn, even though Diagnosis Murder wasn't a show every day, it is now, it has been, it's been in syndication, so we've all done shows that run every day, and we're in the background of people's lives, and yeah, it's so wonderful to meet people that that you've touched in that way? Legally. What?
Or not.
Or not.
Now,
Can't speak for those guys.
speaking of family and whatnot, Robert, you were able to portray in the Michael Keaton Batman film, Alexander Knox. What was that like for you getting the call 30 some odd years later to reprise your role? Because I will tell you, man, that 13 seconds you were on TV for Crisis on Infinite Earths, that was a moment in my house. But what was that like for you to be able to, legitimize with everything that was going on and how some people have felt about the Arrowverse as it was, that it was all connected?
I was there one day, so I had a good time. They asked me to do it, I said yes. That was really it. It was just nice, and they were very nice, and we shot in Seattle, so it was fairly close to Los Angeles, easy plane ride. So I enjoyed it, and I knew that the people who were really into it would appreciate it. So I was, I was very happy to do that.
Now, like I said, everybody's had so many different roles and whatnot. We're obviously we've already touched on Ponch, but Eric, what's another role that you hope that people would know that's one of your most proudest that maybe has flown under the radar?
I was 52 years, so there were a lot of things that I enjoyed. I love my character Ponch because I didn't have to make him up. I played me because I've always wanted to be a cop since I was 4 years old, so it was easy. But I think my first movie, I was 19 years old. Don Murray directed it, Don Murray the actor, and it's called A Cross and a Switchblade, Christian film, true story. The guy I played is today at some prison or some detention center bringing people to Christ because he was the baddest warlord of a gang in New York in the 50s, and early 60s, called the Mau Mau's, and I got to play him. And then Pat Boone played David Wilkerson, who came from Phillipsburg, Pennsylvania, because he was in his barn and he was reading the papers about the gangs in New York, and he said God told him to go to New York and help those kids, and he did. And he picked the toughest kid, toughest gang, and I got to play that role. But my fun thing was, my auditions were all improvisational callbacks. Because by that time, I wasn't, I hadn't gone to AMDA, American Musical Dramatic Academy yet. I was still raw and out of Spanish Harlem. And I brought a switchblade for my audition for the 6th callback because they were going to bring in Pat Boone to play David Wilkerson, the preacher who came from Phillipsburg, to help the kids. And then he created a team challenge. And then he ended up at one of those Broadway theaters as one of his churches, Reverend David Wilkerson. And I pulled a knife out in the audition on Pat Boone. And nobody knew I had it. I went to 42nd Street and bought it. Because I was up against the kid that was in the movie Up and Down Staircase with Sandy Dennis. Beautiful, Italian-looking guy, tall. And I had spit. That's all I had at my audition. So I figured I had to do something. I brought a real knife to an audition. And the director from the back of the room says, Stop, scene over. Nobody brings a real knife to an audition. And I got the part though, and that's one of my things.
That's one of those times you actually do bring a knife to a gunfight,
Pat Boone said, we have to hire him because he might know where I live.
Robert, same question. What is one of those, you've done both Durham, and I could go through a whole laundry list, but what is that particular role that you hope that people remember you for?
I'm very happy with pretty much everything that I've been in. The TV series is a TV series, so that's going to be longer. Even though it was on HBO, it was, I was playing a sports agent, and I created the show, so I knew that one. Knox, the first Batman was so big that it's in a different category. And a lot of people remember me for a little movie called The Hollywood Knights, which was my first movie ever. And that was fun.
Carolyn?
Well, it doesn't fly under the radar. I don't know that, I love Barb in Cougar Town. And if anybody hasn't seen Barb in Cougar Town, yeah, she's hilarious because she comes in, drops these little comedy, inappropriate atom bombs, and then watches the destruction and scurries back into the darkness. It's Barb is wonderful. I also love Penelope Ellis on Revenge. She was, I mean, of course, and I've got a couple of films out. One is called St. Agatha, and the other is called Wineville. And if you want to see a totally different side of Carolyn, the murderous, evil villain side, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, they're a lot of fun. As they say, the snake gets the best lines and the best shoes. So there you go. They're so much fun to play.
Charlie, same.
Well, I think like Robert said, you do so much work and there's so much that you love that you've done and you hope people respect it and love it. I think more than anything, I could probably name more movies that I wish people never see than
Go
do
ahead,
see.
please. We're here. Yeah, go for it.
Since we're opening up, and Amanda, you can attest to this too. I did the worst movie I think I've ever done in my life. It was called Miss Castaway and the Island Girls, and it was one of these things like they come to you and say, hey, we've got this funny little script, and we're going to shoot for a couple of months in Atlantis. Your family will go there. It'll be a beautiful vacation, and it ends up being like 2 weeks in Oxnard with Eric Roberts. And it was just, if you ever see it or Google, it's horrible. It's the worst thing ever. But Michael Jackson is in it.
No, I have the worst thing ever. I've got the worst thing
All right, let's just bring it all the way back.
What's your
That
crap?
was the worst
mine,
one.
I'm not going to tell you the name. Look, see if you can figure it out from IMDb.
I'm
but not
probably
gonna tell
in
you
it
the
with
name.
you.
You're not.
It's
You're not.
that
But
bad.
suffice to say, it was shot in Jamaica at a resort called Hedonism 2, which is a full-on, full frontal swinger resort. And you had hard-ass grips and tech people and camera operators walking down the hill from the resort to the beach because we were housed there and we were fed there and the whole thing. We shot there. Walking down the hill going, oh my God, what's happening in Cabana number 2? I didn't know the human body could bend like that. It was ghastly. And then after 3 weeks, you just kind of go, oh yeah, well, sure, that's what someone looks like when they're doing that. Anyway, you became immune to it, and I don't know which is worse, but awful movie. You all can figure it out, because that's what I'm saying.
Robert?
I've been pretty fortunate. The thing about being in terrible movies is that you may think it's terrible, and yet somebody's going to come up to you and say, I love that movie. So, that happens a lot, and I'm always surprised. So I try not, unless I had a really horrible time on it, which I don't remember too often. I've been pretty lucky. I haven't done that much, but the ones I've been in, I've pretty much, I can say, yeah, that's right. I enjoyed that. And usually it's about the experience of work.
That's it. I enjoyed being in Jamaica and getting
it's like I enjoyed having work. So many people don't have work, and
we also can't control the end result.
No, you can't.
We can't control the end result.
Unless, like with certain things, like with the TV series, I could.
Of course.
I've been very lucky. I'm very fortunate, and again, somebody is going to come up to you and say, "I love that movie you were in," and I say, "Thank you."
It will not happen with the movie that I described.
Eric?
There comes a time when you're up, you're down, you're in, you're out. You come and you climb the mountain. Sometimes you gotta come back down the mountain. And you take a gig or two. You really don't give a crap about it, but you take it because you gotta take care of it. You gotta take your business. So I got a few of those. For the most part, hey, it's water under the bridge. Big deal. Bite me.
Now, interestingly enough, you guys have been acting for so long. What do you think about the changing television landscape? Whether it's playing, you do soap opera every single day, so that's that high turnover. You did the weekly show. You were on HBO. You were on ABC's at 8 o'clock. what do you think about everything now with the streaming and the online channels? And what's that like for you as actors getting gigs now, or just randomly getting, hey, I got a thing from Tubi or some executive producers, or that's an unknown